Inspiration, brave action, and heartwarming journeys. This is what the Louise H. Reed Show brings you. Now, here's your host, Louise H. Reed.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me again this wonderful Tuesday. I am your host, Louise H. Reed, with listeners in over 145 countries and millions of iTunes downloads and ongoing podcasts. I'm the fortunate host here every Tuesday at this time to explore the incredible journey of amazing people who've truly embraced the notion of taking brave, bold action in pursuit of their dreams and goals. Today, I'd like to share a short announcement with you before introducing my guest. I'm thrilled and excited to be sharing that I've just launched a truly transformational 30-day program with only 12 spaces for 12 amazing women who are ready to take 2019 by storm, but don't know where to start. So if you are listening right now and are looking for some motivation for 2019, for support, for guidance, for coaching, for collaboration, and doing so in sisterhood, and you want to experience more success and fulfillment in 2019, personally or professionally, check out my website, louisehreed.com, and see if this may be for you. Now, on to today's guest. But before we hear from this wonderful, amazing woman, I'd like to share a little bit of information about Jen. So from the nonstop traveling and living out of a suitcase for 6 months at a time while traveling the US managing promotional marketing tours, that was Jen. Corporate training at a telecom software company, that too was Jen. To teaching 4-year-olds the art of ballet, tap, and jazz. To being a spokesperson at car shows across the country. To settling down into the corporate world and becoming an executive assistant for high net worth individuals and their families. All the way to dealing with the chaos of being an events coordinator. Jen Collings is proof that holding one position or having a steady job really isn't for everyone. Who can relate to that? The journey she's been on, which led her to her current role of finding her truth and helping others to believe theirs, has been nothing short of amazing. And I'm thrilled to welcome Jen Collings to the show. Thank you so much, Jen, for joining us today.
Oh, Louise, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited we finally got to do this. We've talked a couple times now, and it's just like we've built a sisterhood, and I'm excited. You know, I'm very excited. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'm particularly excited. And I thought it was actually quite interesting how I just shared the launch of this particular program, and I think you are a beautiful example of someone who has done those things. You yourself have gone through that process of sort of redefining who you want to be in the world, how you want to show up. And then the hardest part is really having the courage to do something about it. And so I'm thrilled to have you here, and I can't wait to explore more about sort of the journey that you've been on to getting to this point. I think it's really easy to look at someone like you and say, oh, well, Jen could do it because, and then whatever the reason is, right? Jen could do it because of this, and I don't have that. Jen could do it because of that, and I don't have that. And the reality is we all have these obstacles that come into our lives. And I think that it's really helpful when we can sort of peel back those layers and explore that journey and share that really openly and honestly with others. So let's do that, shall we?
Absolutely. Let's go for it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a crazy journey.
Yeah. So where do we start with you? Do we start back at this, does it start when you're a little girl? Does it start when you started your first job? When was that sort of that sense of, that exploration and that discovery? When did you start sort of sensing that in yourself?
It's, I'm a Gemini, so I love to constantly be going and doing things. And I love drama. I love dancing. And so it started all the way back then. Being on stage, I loved it. But it was when I actually got out and started talking to people on more of a personal basis that I started to realize that this was maybe my calling. I say started to realize because so many times it just kept popping up. Like I use this metaphor of like life was hitting me with a pie in the face constantly. Like this is your calling. This is your calling. This is your calling. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, no, we're good. And it wasn't until just recently that I actually opened my eyes. I think the last time we spoke, I said, I gave you a quote that said, an opportunity isn't an opportunity until you open your eyes. And it's so true for so many of us, because for so long we can just go through the world, our day-to-day life, with blinders on. And it's not until we actually open our eyes and we see it and we go, okay, I get it, that's when things actually start happening. So really, I've done all of these amazing things in my life, but it wasn't until just recently that I opened my eyes and I said, this is my passion and this is what I'm going to do. And I had the courage to go for it.
You really did, because there's a lot of things that all have to come together in order for that to kind of happen. So someone is listening right now saying, I'm ready to open my eyes. Like I want to have that. I want to have that feeling because I know I'm not in the right spot. Tell us what that was for you. How did you open your eyes? So I love that phrase. And I talk to mine, I refer to mine as I had an awakening.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's like, well, what the fuck is that? What did it look like? Because I'm ready for it.
Exactly. So you know what? I was sitting in a meeting at my job. It was a Monday morning meeting, and it was a cold February day, and it was at 8:30 in the morning. So of course I've got three things going against me already, because I am not a morning person. I don't like the cold, and you're in a meeting. So really, like, your brain's trying to focus. So I'm sitting there with my hands around my cup of coffee, trying to warm up, and my boss showed and for some reason, on this particular day, there was a quote that said, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not your why.
Wow.
It was like an epiphany. It just, for some reason, on that particular day, it hit me. And my brain started going through the Rolodex of all of my careers that I've ever had in my life. And I started thinking, what were the things that made me happy? What made me feel like I had fire in my belly? And it went back to those times that I was talking to people and I was getting to know them, and I was digging down and I was helping them. You know, on these promotional tours, I never realized it at the time, but there's always this kind of, let's say, a quote behind it. So I was on the Venus Razor for Women tour, and the quote for that was, reveal your inner goddess. Okay. Then I was on the Dove campaign for beauty when they released their cucumber melon body wash. And that was talking to people about being comfortable and feeling beautiful in your own skin. Okay. So all these times I had all these little phrases, catchphrases, and little kind of cues that I was talking to people about. And it never resonated with me until that very one moment. And it was like, those were my why moments. Those moments made me feel like I was living my purpose and I was helping people. And that one moment, that one morning when I was freezing cold and I was exhausted, it was just, everything just awoke in me.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because I'm sure you heard that quote before, or if you hadn't, it wouldn't have resonated with you in that same manner.
Exactly.
I remember hearing something, and I'm probably misquoting, although I do love quotes, about you can only connect the dots looking backwards.
Very true.
And I think that I had, the way that you described it, my awakening was different yet similar. Mm-hmm. And I find that when I'm speaking with people who are younger in their, have less experience, they're so eager to get to this point where they have that awakening themselves. And sometimes it's life experience, doing things that you love, and also being able to contrast that with doing things that you don't, that help to reveal that.
Exactly. You know, and it's not just young people. You know, I constantly hear things like, oh, you're too young to do that, or you're too old to try something new. But honestly, I was 42 when I had this epiphany, let's call it, when I started believing my truth. 42 years old, it's not young, it's not old, but at the same time, it's like, all I needed was the guts to believe my truth, know what I was finally understanding. My soul, my heart, and my brain were finally talking to each other. And I just had to realize it. But I had the guts to say, okay, I get it now. So it really is. It's like this, no matter how old, how young you are, when it happens, it just happens. And you just have to be afraid to go after it and understand it and listen to it.
It's true. I know this because a step niece, I think that's what it is. She has not been in my life for very long, and I'm actually I've been encouraging her to be a guest on my show because she's 16 or 17, and she is the wisest soul I've ever seen on this earth. And so I shouldn't have to correct myself and further to what you're saying. I shouldn't have said about the younger people searching for that, because there are these wise young souls.
So many.
And I would love for her to come on the show in the same way that you're inspiring those who are, in their 40s. It's not too late. She would too be inspiring others. You're not too young.
Exactly.
And so I love how you just tied that so nicely together in a bow, saying how, you just, once you know, and then it's about the guts to do something. So let's explore that a little bit. So let's, once you knew, you had this epiphany, what did you do next? Because I know I shit my pants. I was like, oh no, now I know. Now I have to do something with this.
What the hell do I do now? It's funny. I actually hid it for 2 months. I went home at night and I would sit up, and with my iPhone, I would write speeches or just ideas that I had about believing your truth. And for some reason, believe your truth, that tagline, it came to me like it's been a part of my life and in my essence all along. Like I was like, I'm calling, this journey, believe your truth. And so that came to me like right away. It was very odd. But everything else, I was taking notes, I was writing down. And I went out to lunch with my husband, and we were sitting there, we had a couple drinks, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling good. I'm going to tell him about believe your truth now. And I did. I pulled out my phone. I said, I want you to see something. And I pulled up my keynote speech that I had written, and he sat there and he just looked up at me and he said, oh my God, this is the Jen that I married. This is the Jen with the fire in her soul to help people and get out there and motivate people. He's like, where did this come from? And I'm like, I don't know. It's always been a part of me, but now I'm ready to go after it, and I'm ready to do this and help others believe their truth. And that's it. It was like 2 months of like kind of hiding and figuring it out. And then that was it. It was gung ho. He's a web developer, so he put my site up for me, did everything we needed to do to get it going. And, here I am.
I love that you had the courage to share that. And I think it is I know how important it is to have a person in your life who can walk alongside you and say, yes, you can. On those days where you may, I'm not saying you have, but I believe you probably have, we all have, wavered. And I'm so thankful that you have someone like that in your life. And I'm saying this because I truly am happy for you that you have him. And it's also as a message to others who may be listening who may not have that person. Find that person. It could be a partner. It could be a friend. It could be someone you have not met yet. I don't believe we get anywhere alone. You, Jen, have to have been that one to have had the epiphany, to listen to your intuition, and to have the courage. No question. And I'm not taking anything away from the tenacity and the drive and the fire that you have to have in order to pursue that. But that can come to a crashing halt if you don't surround yourself with people who support you on that journey. What are your thoughts on that?
Exactly. I think, you and I met through LinkedIn, and LinkedIn for me is my lifeline, so to speak, lately. I think I didn't realize what LinkedIn was turning into with, their videos and the support, the different networking that's going on. And I joined it just kind of on a whim. And I started meeting these amazing people, you yourself included, and they became part of my family. And those are the people that lift me up, and they help me when I have those days of doubt. Actually, I wear a bracelet every day because we all do. We all have our moments. And it says, inhale confidence, exhale doubt. And I wear that every day. My husband gave it to me when I started this. He wanted me to remember that, you know, we're all amazing and we're all going to have doubt, which is true. We all do. We all have moments of, I don't know if I can do this, or I don't know if I should do this. But if we just remember who we are, who we were born to be, and we have our circle of friends who, they're not there to criticize, but they're there to lift us up, and they're there to bring out the best in us. And they're there to reassure us when we have those moments of doubt. They're the ones that say, you know what, you got this. You've got this full on, because you were the one who came up with it. You know, you were born with this. You talk about that all the time. So those people, those support network that you encircle yourself with, those are the people that, they're your friends, they're your family, you know, and that's what I consider you guys on LinkedIn. I have such a great circle around me that when I have those days, I just reach out to somebody and it's just like, okay, you're right. Never mind. Sorry. I was just in a bad spot. We're good now. We're good. Hang on.
And I love that you so openly share that. And so if there is someone listening who feels this, who has those moments of doubt, who may be doubtful now, there are so many ways to reach out. Start on LinkedIn, connect with me, connect with Jen.
Yes.
And find that even that, start there, because there is such an amazing group on LinkedIn, no doubt elsewhere as well, but we have this affinity right now to LinkedIn. That is a great first step. I also, a bit biased here because I am a coach and Jen is a coach. My life changed when I hired a coach. My life absolutely changed. So I took 10 years to get from my awakening, maybe I'm a bit of a slow learner, awakening to actually doing something. 10 years, Jen. So you took 2 months?
Yeah.
Yeah. So while age has never been something that I've always appreciated getting older, my grandmother, one of my grandmothers who I never met, died at a very young age. She died when she was 42. So I never had the opportunity to meet her. She never had the opportunity to grow old. Mm. And so with every gray hair, which I am getting, for every wrinkle that in the moment I say, oh, damn, I'm reminded of what so many people don't have the opportunity to do, and that is to actually age. But so that said, there are certain birthday milestones, kind of like some people are like this with at the start of a new year. They're moments of reflection. Those are moments in time that we sometimes take pause to reflect on our life. And so when I was 30, I had my awakening, and when I was 40, I did something about it. So I don't think that was sort of accidental, although it wasn't intentional, that it happened in those years. And, I went through a lot of self-reflection and self-discovery. And so at 40, I knew what I wanted. And so I thought, well, wow, it's taken me 10 years to do this on my own to figure it out what I want. I'm not taking another 10 years to figure out how to do it. Mm-hmm. So I went out and hired a coach. And that changed my life. And in 4 months, I had, I built something for myself that I don't have any confidence I would have been able to do it in 10 years, never mind at all. So what was your, what was your journey then? So, you had 2 months, you told us so openly about how you shared that with your husband and his response, and you got things started. What's been happening since then, and what's your journey been like?
Yeah, well, I don't want to get off course subject here, but 10 years really may seem like a lot, but it's not, because things can't happen until you're completely ready, right? So it took you 10 years. There are some people that say to me, some of my clients, well, I'm not really sure what my calling is. I don't know what my purpose is. And there's nothing wrong with that, because these things, sometimes they take time. I mean, it's not just going to smack you in the face and you're going to wake up quickly. Sometimes it takes time. And my whole life was leading up to that moment. It took me 42 years to lead up to that moment. So, whether it's 2 months or 10 years, it's not until you're actually ready to listen to your heart, your mind, and your soul. I call it our trifecta, working together to help you live your purpose and the life that you're supposed to live. So that time frame, no big deal. For me, in the past few months, what's been going on, I've just been talking to a lot of people, a couple clients here and there. I have one woman who's local. I meet up with her every now and again for coffee, and we talk. And it's just about helping people and watching my little girls. I have 2 little girls, and they're really my why, you know? So I watch them. I have an almost 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. And, you know, I just want to raise them to be strong, independent women who aren't afraid to use their voice. I'm doing that. And my goal for 2019 is to get out and hopefully get into some high schools to talk to our future leaders. You know, we've got so many kids, like you said, your step-niece, you know, 16, 17-year-olds, they have these entrepreneurial minds that we never had back in the day. You know, we're not old, but, you know.
Back in the day, we sound ancient.
But the world has changed so much. I mean,
it has.
It's entrepreneurial, and everybody's trying to figure out what they're going to do in life and how they're going to make the world better. And if we can start with these kids that are about to go into college and get out and then change the world and be our leaders, I mean, wow, we're going to have an amazing world out there. So that's my hope, is to get into schools and talk to kids and motivate and inspire them and talk to them about changing their mindset. Let's change the way we think about things. You know, there's so much negativity in the world. Let's find the positive. Let's make the positive. Let's create the positive in our universe and, you know, get out there and just help each other. And that's my goal. That's what I want to do. And that's where I'm hoping to head now. But again, just having these connections and talking to people and creating authentic relationships with people, it's been an amazing few months for me, you know, from when I just started back in February.
So I want to just touch on the school thing for a little bit. So I've got listenership in the UK, in Canada, in the United States, and elsewhere. But those are the 3 main places that I've got listenership in. If there's a teacher listening that you've just piqued their interest, what kind of student body are we talking about here that you like to speak to, that your signature talk is geared to? Like what age?
What age? Yeah. I mean, so basically juniors, seniors, I know that it's different over in the UK. So, you know, 16, 17, 18-year-olds.
Awesome.
People that are about to get out into the world, either go to university or get out and start their own company. You know, these are the kids that I want to talk to. I want to let them know that they were born for a reason, with a purpose, and they have to believe it, and they have to want it bad enough and not be afraid and not listen to all those naysayers and go out there and kick some ass.
I love it. I love it. So teachers, principals, anyone involved in the schools, if there are parents listening who think Jen needs to be in my kid's school, how would they? I don't normally ask this yet. I normally sort of wrap this up, get your contact info at the end, but I really think this is an important time for someone listening right now who you've just touched. How would they reach you to find out more information about how you get in their school?
Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, I have, so my website is believeyourtruth.com, but my personal email is jen@believeyourtruth.com. So you can reach out to me there. We can talk. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook, but absolutely jen@believeyourtruth.com.
And for those listening who are interested in the show notes, you can find this podcast on Spotify, iTunes, my website, and you will find all Jen's contact information there as well. So feel free to go to louisehreed.com to get that info. Okay, all right. So enough about that, because I don't really talk about that right now. But I just thought I had to ask, because I felt like there'd be someone sitting on the edge of their seat saying, "Yeah, like why aren't our kids having these kinds of conversations?" And what struck me as well, and I talked last week when I had my dad on the show.
Which I loved, by the way. That was amazing.
Thank you. I get inspiration from all sorts of places, including, of course, my parents. And so I really wanted to bring my dad on. And what I found, while I certainly knew this to be true based on conversations I have regularly with my dad, what really came out I felt like in the interview with him, was the massive generational difference and life experience.
Mm-hmm.
Between his growing up and my growing up. And so it's going to be the same now with, like you were mentioning a moment ago, between how we grew up and how our kids are growing up.
Yep.
And so it's our generation of people who are teaching these young people. And I'm not sure our perspectives are full and broad enough to ready them for the world that exists now. So that's what you, when you were explaining what you want to do with youth and how you want to help expand their thinking, that's what really struck me. I don't think that we, certainly someone in their 30s and 40s and older, I don't know if we're prepared to guide them properly.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. We have some really great teachers out there. I'm not going to put them down, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, math and whatnot. But when it comes to the day-to-day life, believing in yourself, not being, I didn't finish college. I'm not ashamed of it. I have succeeded and I've done so many amazing things in my life, and I've learned so much from life that I kind of take that of more value to me. I wasn't a student. Some people are students, some people aren't. That's totally fine. This is your journey and you need to be okay with it. I always say live unapologetically. This is your journey. However you want to do it, the way you want to talk, the way you want to live, this is yours. But it's that believing in yourself. It's, what? No, I want to own an ice cream shop. I'm not going to go to college. I want to own an ice cream shop. And for people, us, to say to someone like my child, go for it. It's okay. You're going to own the best darn ice cream shop there's ever been in the world. And you're right. We do need more people like that supporting, our younger people's thoughts and what they want to do in life outside of schooling.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of just try something, try it and fail. That's okay.
Yep. Learn from it.
Learn from it. Try and fail until you try and love.
Exactly. And there's nothing, so many people say, oh, well, I can't fail. Well, yes, you can, because failure is a good thing. As long as you learn from it and you move on and you take those lessons with you, failure is a really good thing, because when you fail, eventually you're going to turn that into a success.
Yeah. And I was chatting with my partner the other day, and he was feeling, based on something that had occurred in his day, he was really struggling with it. And I said, I'm so happy you're feeling like that. It means you're growing. Which, when it's your partner, he gets kind of annoyed. He was like, would you stop coaching me? But it's true.
It is very true.
Those moments are moments of growth. Yeah. So you mentioned success, and I'm curious to understand, what does success mean to you at this stage in your life? You've mentioned your goals, and you've had your epiphany. And so my guess is that you've got a much broader definition of success at this stage in your life than perhaps you would have at the age of 20.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Being happy with who you are, being happy with what you're doing. And for me to be successful for me, because I'm very happy where I am right now, it's helping others. And it's helping others get to that point where they're happy with who they are and they're happy living the life that they're meant to live. That, to me, is success. And if I can touch one person, just one person, I'm good.
Yeah, I love that. So what's the scariest thing that you have done on this journey? If you had to think journey of life, not necessarily journey that you're on now, this may not have been the scariest thing, but if you think about, your years on this earth, what's the scariest thing that you've encountered and taken on?
Well, I've done a few crazy moments, let's say, of my roller coaster ride here. I think I was married very young, and I went through a divorce. And when I got divorced, I had no idea who I was anymore. I became this other person. And that is the point in my life where the promotional company that I was working for asked me to start traveling across the country. And so here I was, this broken person. I had no idea who I was. I was scared of the world. And this opportunity was put in front of me. And my grandfather, who, God rest his soul, he was always the one who said, you know what, Jenny, if you don't give it a try, you never know. I believe in you, kid. He would always say that to me. I believe in you, kid. And maybe that's where Believe Your Truth came from. And so I did. I started traveling. And that's when I traveled with strangers for 6 months to 9 months out of the year. We just traveled across the country. And I got to know who I was. I got to see the country. I got to learn new things. And I figured out who Jen really was. So that was the first tremendously. I mean, that was horrific for me to do, but hindsight, right? It was the best thing I could have done. And then I met my husband. We met online. My husband's originally from the UK.
Mhm.
And I went over to London to meet him. And that was scary because at the time I was like, oh, I don't want to get married again. You know, I just want to have fun. I want to travel the world and see new things, meet new people. And I met Tony, and we've been attached ever since. 12 years later, 2 beautiful children. So, you know, it's those moments of fear that you need to say, screw it. This could be the best opportunity in your life. When you're faced with a fear, here's another great quote for you. If you look at fear, the only thing stronger than fear is curiosity. So if we can be more curious than fearful, we're going to live this amazing life, and fear's not going to stand in our way. And that's pretty much what's happened to me. Every time I've been afraid, I've jumped into the frying pan of fear. I've had this amazing success story that's come out of it. So
those are great stories. And it also reminds me of something that, especially as coaches, we say a lot and we hear a lot, and that is growth is outside of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's where the joy and the magic really, really happens.
Yes.
And for a long time, and so I'd be interested how you determine whether something you're scared of is a good thing or something you should lean away from. And so I've learned that if I feel sick to my stomach,
I was just going to say gut.
sick to my stomach, but I feel expansive, then it's something I lean into. If I feel sick to my stomach and want to like hide and get small and it makes me feel uncomfortable,
mm-hmm.
then it's usually something I need to stay away from. And so, you know, even starting my own radio show was something I felt like that about. I'm not sure if Cameron, my producer, is listening at the moment. He might be. So Cameron, here you go. Here's a little story. After I had the opportunity to be on a radio show, I'd been toying with the idea of starting a radio show of my own, and Cameron caught wind of that, and so said, well, hey, why don't you have a radio show on Contact Talk Radio Network? We'd love to have you. And immediately I felt like I was going to be sick, but I felt expansive, and I knew that it aligned with my why, which is, you know, inspiring, empowering, and equipping others to take brave, bold action in pursuit of their dreams and goals. Like, what a great way to be sharing that. And so, you know, that's how I've learned. It took a long time, but that's how I've learned to say yes to things very quickly, and also say no to things very quickly if I have a sick feeling but feel small versus sick and feel expansive. What's your gauge? Because we all feel fear.
Yep. Oh yeah, we feel fear.
How do you know whether it's something that you should leap into or lean back from? What's your sense?
It's pretty much the same thing like you said. You know, if my gut doesn't feel good about it, if I have this almost anxiety-ridden feeling over it where I feel like uncomfortable, like you said, like this really isn't a good thing, then I know it's a no. But if I'm nervous, and I learned a lesson very early on when I was in high school. My drama teacher, every time I would get ready to go on stage, I would feel this overwhelming urge to want to go use the bathroom, like I was just ready to be sick. And my drama teacher finally said, Jen, that is just a human emotion. You're not going to be sick. It's just fear, but you have to write it out. And once you get out there, you're going to be fine. And that feeling, I learned to, you know, okay, she was right about this whole feeling, this whole human feeling that we all have. We all do it. We are all human beings. We all have this fear, however your body reacts to it. You know, your heart might race, your palms might get sweaty. We all react differently. But if you can write it out, knowing that you're not going to get hurt, knowing that it could actually be a really great thing to do and you could actually have fun doing it, then go for it.
Yeah. And it's better than the alternative.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. I've said it on the air numerous times, and I'll say it again. I really think everyone needs a therapist and a coach. My therapist told me years ago, if you're not growing, you're dying. And it sounds really quite harsh. And I remember when he told me, I felt like a bit of a punch in the stomach. Like, wow, that's a bit much. But it really stuck with me because I think that that's true. You know, who do you want to be in this world, and how do you want to experience this journey? If you're good where you are, that's fine. I'm not trying to encourage others to leave, but if you're not good where you are, it's going to get uncomfortable and scary to choose and experience other, and it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
And if you're uncomfortable, there's nothing wrong with taking baby steps. You know, Luis and I, we're not sitting here saying like, jump, just go do something different. Take baby steps, you know, start trying to figure out what does bring you joy and passion in life. If you love taking photographs, you know, go out and take more. If you want to take a dance class, you know, take baby steps to get to the place in your life where you're happy, and you can start, you know, maybe jumping a little bit more than just baby steps.
It's true. I was speaking with a client recently, and I asked her just kind of what you were saying. What makes your heart sing? What do you love to do? And she told me. And you know, and you can hear it. It's like this release of just pure happiness and joy. And I said, do more of that. And she's like, that's it? I'm like, right now, yeah. Yeah. She's like, I can do that. I'm like, exactly. Yep. And it creates space for more joy. When the more joy you have, the more joy you find.
Absolutely. That is such a true statement. Like, if you are unhappy, just a little bit of joy, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's like, oh, wow, I'm actually like, life is great. It's amazing.
Life is great. Life is great. So we talked a little bit, and you shared with us what your sort of scariest moments have been, that you had the courage to take action on. Thank goodness you did, right? To think that you wouldn't have your husband and your kids is like, wow, right? If you really leaned away from that fear, your life would be totally different. So that said, what accomplishment are you most proud of?
I don't know. I've got a few. You know, I think when I got up and did my first keynote, that was huge for me because it proved to me that I can do this, you know.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So I was on vacation. I was going on vacation, and was going to see my mom and stepdad. And it just so happened that he was very close friends with a pastor who was holding a retreat about believing your truth. He didn't name it that. It was called, I want to say it was like life through God, you know, but he was talking about living your purpose and believing in who you are. And so I started talking to him, and he said, look, you're going to be out here the weekend that we're having this retreat. I want you to close it out. And I thought, oh, okay. You know, and that fear, that nauseating fear to myself, can I really do this? You know, I've talked in front of public so many times, but for some reason it was like, oh, I don't know. Okay. All right, sure. I'll do it. And I got out there, and I gave my talk. I spoke for 45 minutes. And afterwards, it's when the people came up to me and hugged me, and they were crying, and they said, you know what, you just made me realize that I do have a spark inside of me, and that I never realized what it was until I sat here and you made me think. And it was that moment that I was like, okay, this is what it's all about. This is why I'm doing this. And I was so proud of that moment because I realized I can touch people's lives and I can make them think. You know, if I just make you think about what you're doing, if you're sitting there feeling stagnant and you don't know what you're doing in life, and then all of a sudden you have that epiphany that, oh, wait a minute, you know, I never realized that's what I love doing and I should do more of it. That I was very proud of that moment. And of course, my kids, you know, I'm a mom. Like, I had my children very late. I was 37 and 39. And I went through fertility, not knowing if I could have children. And so to be able to have them and now bring them on this journey with me, I think every day that's a blessing for me.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? And certainly when you've had to work something a little bit more, it's got a different, there's a different element there that might not be there for others. I really appreciate you sharing as well how here you created this business to do just, you know, to go out and speak, and yet we still have those moments when someone wants to hire us to do what we've set out to do and it is our life's purpose, we still have moments of and I'm sharing that because I think that anyone who is well-known, world-renowned, I believe they too, if they were honest would say the same thing, that they too have moments where they feel like that when they're asked to step up and into their calling.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is normal to continue to have those feelings of fear that doesn't go away. I love how you said earlier, how your drama teacher told you that those feelings, that's okay, that's normal. And you just even linked it into what it is that you said when you gave that keynote speech. You still felt like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just the internal dialogue that goes along with those feelings can really determine your success or failure in that moment.
Exactly. And it is all about mindset. It's how you're thinking about it. I could have taken that fear and been like, you know what? No, I'm good. I'm just going to go on vacation and no, but I took the bull by the horns. I said, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it for me because I need to get over this fear, this feeling that I have right now. But then when I was done, I was like, you know what? It was actually, I did it for other people because now I see that my words actually had meaning to them. So yeah, of course, I think that fear, it's a human emotion. We're always going to have it, but it's just how we think about it and how we can change, that horrible, no, I'm not going to do it, to, you know what? Sure, I'm going to do it, and we'll get through it. And you have your support unit there to help walk you through it. And in the end, it always comes out good.
It does. I remember when I took something called wellness and lifestyle management back in 1990. I've got it sitting here on my wall, my certificate. 1996, when the word wellness was something I would whisper because it was like voodoo.
Yes.
Like, that if you believed in something other than traditional medicine, that you were a bit woo-woo.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so one of the courses that I took at that time was stress management. And I remember reading and learning about the stress cycle in the body. And I love all this stuff. My degree's in biology, and so I find that stuff fascinating. But I remember one of the examples, and it always stuck with me, one of the examples, and I think this is really important for people who have not really looked at stress and fear in this way before, was about two people who are at a fair, and there's a massive roller coaster. One person looks at that roller coaster with so much excitement and cannot wait to get in line and wants to go on that roller coaster again and again and again and again and again. You counter that with someone who that person is with who is absolutely scared stiff, can't move in their boots or shaking in their boots, petrified. The point of this is, it's not the situation that is stressful, it's your interpretation of the situation that is stressful. So that person who is shaking in their boots, a very real experience for them, no question. But it shows you the power of the mind. And I think that I think about that example a lot because I think it's just everyone can relate to that. Mm-hmm. Everyone loves or hates roller coasters. and we experience that in our daily life. Things come to us, and doesn't look like a roller coaster. It's an opportunity might come to you that has elicits that same response, that fear or excitement. And we sometimes, I believe, can miss amazing forks in the road for seeing a roller coaster as something to be, we're shaking in our boots instead of looking at it with excitement. Absolutely.
And it goes back to, okay, yeah, you can have the fear, but how much do you believe in yourself? You think you can do it? Then why not give it a go? It's worth the try. And again, if you fail, learn from it, figure it out and figure out how to make that failure something that's good and a success.
So what would you suggest someone listening right now whose interest is piqued and they're wondering, well, what's the first thing that I could start to do to uncover what my purpose might be? There's a lot involved in it. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to oversimplify it because it isn't just one thing. I think that's pretty clear. Mm-hmm. And I do think it's a process of peeling back the layers of self-discovery and reflection. Where could someone start, though?
I think if you, like I did, go through your memory banks of all the things that make you happy and feel joy and feel purpose. Maybe you like to skydive. That makes you happy. Maybe you could become a skydive instructor. Something as simple as that. Just start thinking about all the things that make you happy. Start writing it down. I'm a big fan of journaling. So little notes, little quotes, ideas, everything. I write it all down. Either, I have my phone, but I love to use, got my good old journal right here in front of me with my tabs. So yeah, so journal. Say It's awesome. Start writing things down and then just revisit it, because you may write something down and not realize it at the moment. And then later on you're looking through it and you go, oh, wow. Oh, that's good. Okay. And then build on those things, again, baby steps, just start building on those things. There is a lot to it, but if you can start with those simple things of knowing what you love to do, how it makes you feel when you're doing those things, that's where you need to start.
I love that. It reminds me of a quote, happiness is an inside job. I think we look for shiny objects. We look for courses. We look for answers outside of us. Mm-hmm. And the answers really are inside of us. And that sounds so obvious now when I say it like that. But yet it isn't so obvious for so many of us. It wasn't so obvious to me before. I thought I needed to get that next piece of paper. And then I would be ready to blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And that didn't work. I just needed to get a job that has this title. And then I'll be happy. I just need my house to be like this. And then I'll be satisfied. I was seeking something outside of ourselves.
Yeah, and there'll always be an and then. If you keep
always an and then.
Always an and then.
So thank you for sharing with such a simple way with my listeners to just pause and reflect and be still.
Absolutely.
I would like to sort of share a bit of a vulnerability, I guess, in myself, is that I have known this to be true for years, the power of stillness and the power of journaling. I've also known to be true the power of meditation. You could not get me to do it until like a month ago, Jen.
What?
I know. So I talked to my clients about it.
Wow.
My clients have been doing it. And I've been honest with them, obviously. And I'm being honest with my listeners now, is that it was through one of my very good friends who I met. We took out some coaching stuff together. And she's a very good friend now. And interestingly, she's going to be a guest coach in my January session with my ladies. Anyway, I don't know how she finally convinced me, because it wasn't twisting my arm. It was just came at the right moment, similar to how you heard that quote when you had your epiphany. It came at the right moment. Mm-hmm. I started journaling and meditating. And now when I don't know what to do, this has only been a month, Jen, and I cannot tell you. Do you know what I do now when I know that when I don't have an answer? I meditate. And when I tell you in 5 minutes, that's when answers come to me in those still moments.
Absolutely. It's because you're taking the time to be quiet and listen to your soul. Because if anybody knows anything better, it's your soul. Your soul has been with you since the day you've been born. So you're just quieting down enough to listen and be with yourself. And that is the most amazing thing that you can do, is just to be quiet and listen to what your heart and your soul have to tell you.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm looking at my journal right now. Those of you listening to the podcast or listening live can't see me. Those watching can see. November 6th, 2018. That's my first journal entry. And it's really quite even funny looking at the journey and the evolution even over that time. And so thank you for sharing that with my listeners about the power of that. I'm sharing my own vulnerability about just having started this for the purpose of letting you know that it will feel uncomfortable. You might not like what you're writing. You might struggle to write something. Like, I'm looking at what I wrote, and it's so structured and formal. It looks like I'm writing a Dear Diary entry. Like,
I love that.
Or something, right? And that's okay. I guess is why I'm saying it. And that's okay. And I look at even now how I'm experiencing my journal, and it has truly, truly been transformational. So thanks for giving me the space to share that and that tip to my listeners.
You are very welcome. Very welcome.
So I would like to ask you, because you're full of such joy, purpose, and inspiration for others, where do you find your inspiration, or who inspires you? There are other things, are there books, share with us what inspires you.
Yeah. Well, my grandfather, he was a big inspiration for me. He was always one who said to, try everything and anything. And he always said he believed in me. So having someone like that really just kind of pushed me through really hard times in my life. Right now, I'm very fortunate to work for the owner of the company that I'm with. He is inspirational beyond anything I can tell you. I mean, when I told him that I was starting this journey of my own, he asked how he could help me and mentor me. So having him and listening to him talk, very inspirational. And I like to read and I like to listen to different podcasts. It is everywhere. We have so much information in the palms of our hands that if we're not using it to the best of our abilities, you can get drawn into so much junk that's out there. But if you're using it for good and for learning and, motivating and inspiring yourself, you're doing something wrong. So yeah, it's everywhere around you, and finding the right people that share a good message and really resonates with you. That's important.
I completely agree with you. And it's what's so interesting to me is that once you turn your mind to it, you do see it everywhere.
Absolutely.
I remember, again, going back, and I don't know why I'm reflecting on my college years right now. So another memory came back, and that was it was about entrepreneurship. It was a course on entrepreneurship, and the instructor, she was just phenomenal. She said opportunities are everywhere, and I remember thinking, I don't even know what she means. Like, I don't know where opportunities are. And I wasn't being negative about it. I just did not know what she was talking about. I did not know how to find them, how to see them. And so she just quite simply, at that time, grabbed a newspaper and everyone was looking at newspapers. And she's like, okay, so look at the newspaper now with an eye for opportunity. There's opportunities that you'll find, and it's not written as the headline is not, here's an opportunity.
Right.
It's not like in the help wanted or the classified section, right?
Exactly.
But they're not that hidden when you start looking for it. And so my point here is that, once you start tuning into something, you see it everywhere. When I got pregnant for the first time, I'm sure you were the same way. I saw pregnant people everywhere and I'd never noticed them before.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're looking at.
So, along what you're saying, once you believe in your truth and you start tuning into that and you start getting really clear, like what Jen was saying about journaling and surrounding yourself with things and people and resources that align with that, you will see more of that. I don't know. I don't know where that rant really came from, but I just love all of what you're sharing, the simplicity and the power of it.
Mm-hmm. And that's true. It's very simple, but yet it's powerful, and it will change your life if you start to think of things in this sense and you start to open your eyes to all the different things around you and believe in who you are. You're put here for a reason, so it's amazing.
And I think it's a beautiful way to wrap up here, Jen, is really, I am challenging, on behalf of Jen, I'm challenging each of you to believe your truth and pull out a journal and pen and start. Start from the heart and just journal what comes. And I would love to hear how you do with that challenge. Jen, at this time, I really want to thank you so much for spending this hour with me and my listeners. It has just flown by, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. I truly have.
Thank you, Louise. It's been wonderful, and I hope that I inspired your listeners too. So thank you.
Absolutely. You've inspired me today, so thank you. And I want to thank all of my loyal listeners and followers, and remind you once again that information about the show, about my program in January, and of course about my amazing guest today, Jen Collings, can be found at louisehreed.com. Also, a big shout out and lots of love and extra love to my producer, Cameron Steele, and his family at Contacts Talk Radio Network. And finally, I'm here to highlight and showcase people like Jen, people who are taking brave, bold action and whose actions have a positive impact in our world. With that said, I'd like to encourage you to be brave, be bold, and be happy. Until next Tuesday, at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm Louise H. Reed, wishing you all an amazing day. Goodbye, friends.
Okay, you're clear.